So a quick backstory for those who haven't read the book. This is about a family called the Ryders. There are 4 people. There's Henry, who is an English professor. There was Susan, who's an aspiring artist. There are 2 children, Hannah, who is, when the book starts, is 10, and Will, who the story is really about. It's his first-person narration. He's 5. And Will is the story starts at about 1978, and it goes to 2006. And Will is a New York artist, and he's looking back on his life and his family. And what happens is he says the story of his parents. They are living in New York, they're married, they're kind of hippies, they smoke a little pot, but they're somewhat serious about life. The mother is an aspiring artist, so she's gotten nowhere in New York. And Henry just kind of goes wherever Susan tells him to go. And one day she's looking in a magazine and sees a spread on southern New Mexico, and since her career is hitting a wall in New York, she says, we're going to move. We're going to go to southern New Mexico, sight unseen. I like the palette. I like the blues. I like the greens. I like the beiges, the browns. That's my kind of place. So out they come to a town, a fictional town, called Santo Tomas, which frankly is a little bit like Santa Fe was in the 70s when Pat and I came out. It's a combination of Anglos and Hispanics. It's a laid-back, easygoing culture. It's not without its periods of confrontation and conflict, but it's a safe place. So they come out, they have their 2 children, as I said, Hannah first and then Will, and that's the background of this family. But as we start to read the book, there are 2 things that jump out at us, and we find out very quickly. There's something very different about Will, and that is he has a face that's been disfigured by a fire. We don't know the circumstances of the fire, but that he's very, very different. And we know that also his mother abandoned him and abandoned the family just about the time after the fire. And we don't know the circumstances about that either. So those are 2 mysteries that begin to pull us into the story. And the third very important circumstance is the father decides that Will, because his face is so different, it's the kind of face that is so significantly distorted and disfigured that if you look at it, you're going to turn the other way, or you're going to say, thank God that's not me. Or how does that poor guy exist? So here's a young boy, 3 years old, and the father decides, I'm not going to send him to school right away. I'm going to keep him home. I'm going to nurture him. I'm going to protect him. I'm going to love him. I'm not going to expose him to the world of bullies and teasing and have his self-esteem assaulted. I want to nurture him and love him, and I'm also going to teach him. I'm going to read to him. So basically, Will stays home for three years, learning everything he can. And his father continually says, don't pay attention to your face. His father and sister even go to the extent of hiding all the mirrors in the house. They don't want even to look at it because, as Henry says to Will, your face is just a facade. It's just an envelope. It's like a book jacket is to a book. It's like a carton of milk is to the milk inside. It's really meaningless. What's important is what's in your heart and your head. And you have a nimble brain, you have an imagination, you have a wit, and that's what we're going to nurture. But time Will is 6, he's kind of had it. He wants to get out in the world. He's tired of sitting in his house looking out the window as the world passes him by, and he wants to go to first grade. So he goes on to grammar school. He finishes grammar school. Things are okay. He kind of gets used to his face. He likes, frankly, being the center of attention, and he doesn't mind that kids call him names. He's sort of the teacher's pet. He does well academically. He knows he likes to paint. He stays home and he paints, and everything is kind of very copacetic for him. And then in the 6th grade, toward the end of the 6th grade, everything changes suddenly for him. He's riding his bike home from school. He stops at the tienda to get a snack, and he goes to the magazine racks in back. Because every month he goes to the tienda and he buys an art magazine or 2. So he goes and he buys his thing, it's art news or whatever it is. And he's looking through it, the usual, trying to learn about other painters and what their styles are. And he sees this woman and he starts reading this article and he says, my God, that's my mother. And the last thing he knew about his mother was she left the family, and according to his dad, she just left a note saying she's fallen in love with another man and she's out of here. We don't want anything to do with her. She's never coming back. But he says, oh my God, this is her. Not only is she an artist, she's a famous artist. She's showing at a gallery in Copenhagen and Berlin. I want to get in touch with her. So he runs home and he throws the magazine at his dad. He says, Dad, look at this. Isn't this great? His dad says, well, yeah, not, you know, it's great that you found that, but I don't know what we have in common with her anymore, Will. He says, but Dad, you got to tell me more about her. He says, well, I don't know that much. She hasn't been in touch. She doesn't contact me. And he says, well, you have to accept that, you know, we're a family here. We have Hannah, we have you, we have me, we all love each other. You know, let's not disturb the peace. And he kind of says, oh, okay, okay. But in secret, he finds out the gallery where his mother is showing in New York, Leo Castelli, and he writes her a letter. And he says, hi, Mom, it's me. You know, you probably miss me a lot. You know, I've been out of touch, and he acts very grown up. But Gus, let's get together. You know, where should we meet? Shall I fly to New York? And he doesn't tell his dad. A month goes by. He comes back to the house. His dad is sitting in the living room with a stack of mail on his lap, and there's a letter to Leo Castelli Gallery. It's the one from Will, and it says, stamped on it, return to sender. And he sees that, and he's like, oh my God, why is that? It said, you know, attention, Susan Olmsted, how could it not possibly be delivered? His dad said, look, Will, I tried to tell you, she doesn't want to be part of our life. You've just got to give up on this. You know, she's not going to be a part of us. So he kind of accepts that, but in the back of his mind, it's like, my mother's out there, and not only is she out there, she's a well-known artist, and I want to be an artist. So there's this connection that he wants to consummate. Then he goes on to junior high school, and things begin to really fall apart. It's one thing to go through grade school and feel good, but when adolescence kicks in, it's hard for everybody. You can imagine somebody with a face like Will getting in trouble right away. So there are bullies and there are fights, and he's not afraid. He's a strong boy, and he's not afraid of physical confrontation. His dad has taught him how to wrestle, so he gets in fights with bullies, and he can hold his own. Where he can't hold his own is emotionally and psychologically. He doesn't understand what recourses he has. He is just this face, and it's never going to change. He talks to his dad about getting money to get plastic surgery so he can be like everybody else. But that's not possible. No one has the money. Every time he passes a mirror, he doesn't know, should I look at it? Should I look away? You know, how do I make sense of myself? And I want to read this passage that to me is important because it just shows the subtle ways. I mean, you can look at somebody's face and say, oh God, that's terrible, he's like that. I can understand, I can commiserate with that. But you don't know how deep the wound and the pain can go. So this is an instance of Will, who's already been expelled from school once, and his father says, you better be careful, you know, you gotta just kind of hold your temper and mind what you're doing. One afternoon, waiting for my father to pick me up, I parked myself in the bleachers of the athletic field, huddled over a math book, pretending to do my homework. The football team was scrimmaging. Closer in was the cheerleading squad, 8 girls whose hourglass figures and flat bellies riveted me as they moved and jumped, their pom-poms rippling in the air like chords of music, like sirens calling out to passing ships. I fantasized about them a lot, especially their smiles. The smiles seemed to come out of nowhere, an explosion of brilliant white teeth, their lips pushing up, light tumbling out from behind their eyes. Whenever I tried to smile, it was constricted by scar tissue and damaged muscles around my mouth. At best, the end of my lips rose slightly. I looked like a hooked fish, but it was enough to let someone know I wanted to be friendly. Yet my mouth could never achieve what came so effortlessly to others. I remembered my early baby pictures, where my smile was wider than Hannah's. Now it took a great effort to achieve 1/10 of that result. I could never appear as happy as I sometimes felt. I wondered if people thought I didn't have all the emotions that they did, just because my face refused to register them. Glancing up from my book, I was mesmerized by the rhythm and spontaneity of 8 girls I had never had the courage to talk to. They were on their own pedestal, higher than any of my friends. Their inaccessibility was what made them so alluring. When their practice was over, they dispersed in unison toward the gym, gambling over the grass like horses. I followed at a safe distance, heading toward a drinking fountain. I took a gulp of water and cautiously made my way to the side of the cement bunker to the girls' locker room. I stepped up on a bench and stared through the partly open window. I knew how reckless and stupid it was. At any moment someone would spot me, call a teacher, and I'd be taken to the principal's office again. Expelled from school, only this time I'd be labeled a pervert too. So you just wonder about Will, all the chances he has of getting in trouble because just at his knees he doesn't know how to express himself. He hasn't found that ability yet. And he goes through the rest of junior high school equally, one adventure after another. And then something really unexpected happens. He's sort of, again, just drifting along, doesn't know what's going to happen to him, still likes to paint, but very much in a lot of adolescent angst. And then out of the blue, in 1993, he gets a letter just to him in the mailbox. He opens it up in private. Dear Will, I hope this greeting finds you well. A woman named Lucy came to my opening in Manhattan last week, and in our conversation we stumbled on the fact that her son David is Hannah's boyfriend. She spoke of Hannah's many achievements, which of course I had no idea. My daughter seemed to be a serious student with ambition. Lucy also said David had been to Santo Tomas, slept overnight in your room, and admired your paintings. What a pleasant surprise to learn that you're an artist. I want to meet you after all these years. Please bring along some of your work. I'm in Phoenix in 2 weeks for my new opening. Encloses a round-trip plane ticket from Santo Tomas. You'll fly through Albuquerque. The hotel is the Four Seasons in downtown Phoenix. Take a taxi. Tell Hannah and your father hello, your mother.